Welcome to the Stickers on the Mic podcast, brought to you by StickerGiant.com, where we talk with our customers about how they started their business, how they're marketing their brand, and how they're growing their company. Without further ado, it's time for the Stickers on the Mic podcast from StickerGiant. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to Stickers on the Mic. It is 2023, and we are on the cusp of National Sticker Day, and I'm very excited to be dialing in from the Avery Dennison Corporation, Chuck Williams, Global R&D Manager and Global Fellow. We're going to talk a little bit about National Sticker Day. Why would we be interviewing Avery, another sort of printing company? Well, we chose January 13th because that's the birthday of Stanton Avery, the founder of your company, which is this cool little synergy and why we get to have this conversation today. Chuck, thank you so much for sitting with me today.
Andrew, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. This is great. I'm glad that StickerGiant does this, and especially recognizing Stanton Avery on his birthday. This is cool.
So January 13th, Stanton Avery creates one of the first adhesive sort of labeling products to come clean, pricing sticker. And that, of course, many dozens of decades later or whatever, where we are now, we have a whole, billions of dollar industry globally where there's so many different printing companies. But you work for Avery, which is obviously one of the founding members of this industry, but also one of the bigger players as well. And people listening to the show probably know Avery products. But talk a little bit about what global R&D looks like for you at a company like Avery.
So I'll give you a little feedback. So I'm the Global R&D Director for our adhesives group, actually. So we make adhesives within Avery. Avery's a little different than most other companies making label-based materials. We make our own basic adhesives. We coat those again on the liners, the silicone liners, which we make in-house, and then put the face stock and then sell them to converters like yourselves. So one of the things we do was we make adhesives. So I have a degree in polymer science. I have a group here. We have a group of about 40 long-term scientists and about 300 scientists all together looking at how we put together the research that goes into making labels. So there's a lot of cool technology that comes behind making labels. People think it's pretty simple, and you would think that, but it is not. So we have a lot of technology that goes into making labels and making the adhesives that go behind the labels, because things have gotten tougher over the years. We're trying to stick to different things. We're trying to stick to things that don't want to be stuck to, of course, some of the low energy surfaces materials, or we're trying to change our game and become more sustainable. How do we look at what we're doing to move into the future? And that's part of what we do in R&D, is thinking about, our group. I'm lucky I'm in longer term research, 4 to 5 years out, thinking about where are we headed and what's happening in the industry and how do we get there and meet the needs of all the CPGs and all the big people out there that need labels and stickers moving on in the future.
That's cool. Yeah, especially sustainability is a big trend. We're always fielding questions from our customers, especially label customers specifically, about like curved surfaces, or, there's like just the shapes of containers requires you to set up your label differently. But then, you're obviously thinking about that specific adherence, which is kind of cool. So do you have different testing things that you get to mess around with?
Oh yeah. Over the years, we've tested about, you name it, we've probably tested it. We've gone from, we have adhesives that remove very cleanly and very easily, for everything from, like the old Post-it note type of removables, all the way up to things that can hold airplane parts together. So we deal with a long variety of adhesives. But when it comes to the label industry, we're looking at things that will maybe on a food packaging. It could be on paper, or it could be on polyolefins, or it could be on PET or some other substrates. And then we also have the other side of it, where we're looking at the bottles, like you said, or the or jugs, or large jugs that once are molded, they shrink and they grow with heat. So you have a little dimensional change in your substrate you have to deal with. And then we have bigger stickers that go on the sides on roads. If you see the reflective signage driving down the roads, good chance that's an Avery sign up there. It's a big sticker. Basically, that reflective signage telling you what road to go on. And that's on a piece of aluminum that in the morning may be 30 degrees, and at night it may, or during the day in the desert, it may get up to 100 degrees. That aluminum grows and shrinks. The label, or the sticker that's on there, has to grow and shrink with it. So a lot of cool dynamics within what Avery does. So we're not just looking at labeling a pickle jar. We do pretty much everything all the way through. And then we have a tapes group, and then we have our whole group that does retail and information, retail branding, also with RFID chips and the materials in the labels also. Then we have to understand how our adhesives interact with that RFID tag to make sure that we don't interfere with the signal. So there's all kinds of neat, different technologies that we work on.
Wow. So, like I said, we're here to sort of celebrate all things sticky for National Sticker Day, which is, of course, one of our favorite holidays, and we just love to see the engagement. But, how long have you been at Avery Corporation?
It'll be 30 years this June. So wow, I know I look young for that, but yeah, it's 30 years this June.
Well, you've probably seen a lot. I mean, the technology specifically has changed so drastically in the last 20 years, in the last 10, really, with mobile. But, in a way, like, the labeling of things, like I said, is been around for a while, and our Stanton Avery himself, helped innovate in this space. Did you ever have a chance to spend much time with the founder of Avery?
Believe it or not, I actually got to meet him right after I first started. I was a young scientist, first in Avery. That was a big deal back in the early 90s. They flew me to California, and I got to actually, the vice president of our division sent me over to the corporate headquarters and set up a tour of the building. That's all I thought. So I got to meet Stanton Avery's secretary, and she popped her head in this door and she said, "Come here." And she brought me in, and he introduced himself and shook my hand and had me sit down, sat across from me for about 5 minutes. And it was just like talking with an old college chum. It was that nice and that easygoing. You would never know that, the former CEO of the company at that point, he was emeritus at that time. But he had his office, beautiful office on Orange Grove Boulevard in Pasadena. Great place, great guy. Actually, he'd have probably kept talking if it wasn't for the secretary to come back in and grab me to kind of yank me out, because I'm sure he had other things that were more pressing to do than talk to a junior scientist. But he was a wonderful man. And actually, that's one of the reasons I think Avery's a great place, because we still instill a lot of his values that if you go back and read anything about Stan, he was a very good guy, a very good employer.
Oh, wow.
And also a great person to the communities he lived in. So
that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, all my research, writing about it, and I talk about it every year and try to introduce people to that little slice of Americana, that we're able to be a part of, because, this year we're talking stickers and labels are everywhere, but like they really are, like it's, and I, of course, I've been doing this for almost 9 years now, but like, you go to the grocery store, and of course there's different kinds of packaging. So there's the shrink wrap on cans and stuff, but like everywhere you look is some sort of signage. And of course for me and for you, like that's where you're like, this is like my work, in real life, which I think is something very cool, right? Especially in the digital age we live in.
Usually when I get that look at a party, when somebody asks you what you do and you tell them you make adhesive labels and stickers, and they look at you like, I'm like, well, think about it. Go through your day. How many times stickers, or how much, how would your day look like if you didn't know what deodorant you were putting on, or what was in that can when you reached into the refrigerator, or whatever it is? You need that label. You need that information. That information drives what you do and the decisions you make. You wouldn't know what road to get off, what road you lived on. All these things have a sign, and those are all, go back to adhesives and stickers and labels. So we can't live our days without that. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So in this time that you've been at Avery, obviously you've helped develop and launch some things, but what is one of the things that surprised you the most in your time, doing this kind of work?
I'll be honest with you, I think one of the big surprises has been over the last 30 years, I've watched sustainability come and go throughout the 90s. And then in the last 5 to 6 years, it really has taken off.
Yeah.
And what I've really big surprise that if I go back to when I first started here, we used to think grams per square inch is how we measured the amount of adhesive we put on. We used to think 25 GSM or grams per square inch. That was about normal, right? Now we're down to 15 grams per square inch. We're as low as 10 even in some applications. And we're still sticking to the same type of substrates. So we had a lot of excess material that we were using way back in the day. So now over the years, we've been able to come up with new technologies, new adhesives to take down that coat weight. And by doing that, we've improved, all of our lives in some way or another, because it's better for the world as a whole. We're using less petroleum-based materials. We're shipping less materials. It all goes through a whole value chain for sustainability that we've had an effect on. And I'm pretty proud that that's happened in the last, of course, the last 10 years, especially. And I see it happening even more and more as we move the next 5 years. I think not just our company, but every company is really thinking sustainability and what does it mean for our future, and how do we reduce what we use, replace what we use, or reuse what we have. Also thinking of ways to make sure that we make adhesives. So how do I put a cell phone together that when we're done, we clap and it falls apart, and I can take out all the parts that we want to reuse, and then recycle the other parts. So we have to think that way, and labels lead a lot of that way also, telling us which way to go, what to do with some of these materials, and how to recycle them in the future also. So totally. I think most things I'm most proud of is the reduction in the amount of materials that we've used. I say that, but I remember when I first started, we've sold things in drums, and over the last 20 years, I've watched, the facility I'm at. I'm actually at a production facility in Mill Hall, Pennsylvania. We've gone from just selling, a truck of drums a week out to maybe 18 to 20 tankers of adhesive a day. You got to wonder where all this adhesive goes and all those stickers, all that sticker material goes into the world. There's a lot of stickers out there.
Speaking of sustainability, and to stay with this thread, so do you feel like with new products and so we're always looking for like compostable or recyclable and testing these things to bring these ideas out because customers ask for them. We have a couple products like that, but how is it possible to work with adhesives that could be like compostable or recyclable, and what does that testing process look like to get that right? To deliver on that promise, because if it's not 100% compostable, then it's just trash, right?
Well, again, the compostable
or perhaps it's recyclable.
Recyclable,
what I mean?
That's it. Recyclable. We try to recycle, reuse. Compostability is the next level down, and that would be more for the materials that are going on a paper face stock or going on paper or something that can be composted, right? You don't want to put a compostable label onto a plastic, piece that doesn't break down.
What's the point of that?
So we have to think all the way through. But a compostability, just to do one test on compostability, the main test takes 3 months. Oh, wow. So people were asking, why does it take you so long to develop?
Because it has to actually physically break down, right?
It has to break down. You have to physically measure. You have to measure how much gas the enzymes give off as they eat the adhesive and the paper and the face stock. We measure that gas versus the control to show that it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. It's breaking down the materials in the way they're supposed to be broken down. They're degrading correctly. So by doing that one test, it takes 3 months. So if it fails and you didn't hit the mark, well, you're 3 months, and now you have to go back and redo something, take some time. You have to do another 3-month test. So the cycle time on development of the compostable materials is very, very long. Yeah. So it isn't as simple as, I want to improve my adhesion by X%. That's a lot easier than something difficult like compostability.
Well, speaking of those testings, they're all really longitudinal, right? Like I presume like a UV test or something takes a certain amount of time to make sure that those things are all doing what you expect them to do.
Yeah, the great thing about the UV part, though, is we've done it for so long. Like I said, we're put stuff out on roadsides for years and years. Decades, and years. Yeah. We have facilities in Arizona and Florida that we do long-term weathering on. So we have a lot of historical data that we can tap into and say, you know what, 3 months at this temperature and this amount of UV is equal to this many years outside. So we have a pretty good, we can shorten that one up. Composting, we haven't been able to shorten that test cycle up, the final test cycle up, I should say.
Interesting.
And that's kind of where that's at.
That's awesome.
We do have other sustainable things like recycling or clean flake adhesive. We've done a lot of research. We helped develop the test methods that the corporation or APR uses to kind of say, you can use this on a bottle and have that bottle flake back and be able to use it for PET recycle. So there's been a lot of work there Avery did, and it's paying off. Now we have materials out in the market, and we're able to bring back PET recycle into the mainstream, which is a great thing. I mean, we should be recycling as much as we can, of course. So.
That's so cool. We've talked a little bit about the past, the present, and the future.
How about Stan?
Well, we have. Well, I'd love to talk more about Stan, and especially like that legacy. That you talked about how Avery itself still kind of holds to some of that. I'm curious about what that really looks like for the Avery Corporation.
Yeah. So if you read anything about Stan, you know about anything about Stan. So Stan, when he was going to college, actually spent a year as a missionary in China. He came home to pay for school. He actually lived in a chicken coop, rented a little room off a chicken coop. That had to smell really bad. Still got up, still went to school. But once he started his company and started moving through life, I think I think he'd hang out pretty well with the guys from StickerGiant because you guys all have about the same mentality. He loved work, loved what he did, and it showed when he did it. And not only that, he loved work so much that he valued his employees. That was the key, and I think Avery's continued to carry this on. Stan valued his employees and saw them as one of his biggest and best resources. And not only that, he was a huge philanthropist. He put, wherever community he was, very much like StickerGiant. You guys do a lot for the community. So did Stan. And that's why I think you guys would have, he'd have fit in very, very well.
Could you imagine? So. Stanton Avery at StickerGiant. Well, that's why we chose that day for him, and these are really cool anecdotes, and that is like comforting because, we've tried to connect for years, and I know you all have like a cool history promotion going on this year for National Sticker Day, and we've chatted with your marketing folks, and anyone who's listening to this that'll be on our social, of course, but. People are always like, why would you choose like another company? It's like, well, I mean, clearly we didn't create stickers and labels. Like, I mean, we didn't.
You got cool sticker and labels.
Right, but we have a brand that like is part of a larger story. And like I said, it's just like a billions of dollar global business, and there's just hundreds of people who are trying to, in our case, help like small businesses tell their stories. But Avery is like providing all kinds of different products, whether it's like print at home label things or, like that product mix for you all is very large, and we're still able to do some good, I think. I know you're, like you said, sustainability is a huge push, and that's always going to be like a goal, right? It's never it's a destination. It's not really like a destination, but for us to be able to shout from the rooftops on January 13th is always, brings me a lot of joy. So I really appreciate you all spending some time to talk a little bit more about this, Now, let me ask you a question, though, because you're a scientist. Now, when you were a kid, and I have little kids, and I'm interested in just their development and how they like are, learning things. When you were learning things, did you ever say to yourself, like, I want to be a polymer scientist?
I thought about it in high school. It wasn't high school when it hit. And actually, I was going to be a petroleum scientist or petroleum engineer, but that was way back in the 80s. And that's when the market went crazy and petroleum was not a place to be at. So I got talked out of that. But Polymer, at that point, there were only 3 schools in the U.S. that had a program. And Penn State happened to be one of them.
Okay.
3 hours away, and I decided to take a chance. And they actually let me in the school. I'm still shocked. But yeah, it was a cool thing. Plastics was the big thing back in the day. So,
do you feel like though, and again, technology has changed and our world has accelerated in such a way. But do you feel like there's times, at least I do, because I studied journalism in college. I'm like, it's really cool to be able to put into practice what I learned and like apply the things that I went to school to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's still days that I marvel at. I marvel at people like Stan Avery and the fellows that we've built our careers on, that how wonderfully they understood science and they were able to build technologies that were able to, that are still sound today. And we still utilize that base technology. Yeah, we've improved on it, but we would have never been where we were without people like Stan and some of the other big polymer scientist people that, we utilize their theories and their equations today, right? So that's the cool part. We take science and we keep building on it. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. I wish I knew a little bit of what these gentlemen knew to kind of move the technology on the way they've moved it on. So I think that's the cool thing is we learn each day, and we're continuing to learn. I'm still shocked that some of the technologies or things I knew 10 years ago. Well, we have new science to be able to show it as a better way of looking at it now. And We're improving on that.
That's cool. Well, here's to being a lifelong learner then, right? But Chuck, like I said, happy National Sticker Day in advance. It's on Friday, but I'm going to try to get this thing out into the world here ASAP to start, sharing and celebrating your founder of your company, and then also this wonderful little relationship that we have with Avery, which is cool. But thank you for doing the work that you do and like really helping businesses like ours, and then of course our thousands of customers. Like every day they're out there doing their thing, trying to live their dreams, which is the part for me that brings me a lot of joy, even though I'm one step removed from their success, it feels like a shared kind of success. So thank you for sharing in that as well.
Andrew, appreciate it. Thanks for the offer to come on today, and anything I could ever help you guys do, please let me know. You guys are great. We do appreciate what you do for the business and for the industry.
That's amazing. Everybody out there in podcast land, thank you for giving us your time and spending National Sticker Day or any day of the year caring about stickers and labels, because they really are everywhere. And Chuck and everyone at Avery, thank you for the work you're doing. And everyone, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. That wraps up this episode of Stickers on the Mic, brought to you by StickerGiant.com. You can download us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcatcher. Thanks again for listening to Stickers on the Mic. We'll see you next time.